Okay, I filmed this over the weekend, but one, it was too long, like I was just rambling too much. And secondly, it was, I don't know how to explain it. It was like, it wasn't very me. It was a bit professional, and that's just not the vibe that I was going for. So we're gonna try again. So this is basically just my favorite podcasts. So it's my podcast recommendations. These are kind of podcasts that are for the girlies. They're girly, chatty, like big sister / best friend talk type podcasts. There are a couple of exceptions to that general rule of thumb, but I will talk about those at the end. But first we're going to go over the ones that, yeah, are like girly, chatty vibes. Sorry, I need to stop touching my hair. Let me just, I don't know where I want it to sit, so I'm just, okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to try and not do that, but we all know I will. Yeah, so these are my favorite podcasts. I'm not going to delve like too deep into them because obviously if you want to really know what it's about, then like listen. And that's what took so long last time, as I was trying to like explain, but I'll just give you kind of a list of my favorites and then, yeah, do what you will with that. I don't have a social life whatsoever. And I'm kind of okay with that most of the time, like 97% of the time it doesn't bother me because I'm quite an introverted person. Like I'm really socially outgoing, but like I much prefer to be in my own company than in the company of other people. So most of the time I'm totally fine with that, but like sometimes it gets a little bit lonely. And so I like to listen to podcasts where I feel like I'm hanging out with like friends. Yeah, so that's the vibe that all of these have in common and share. So I'm just going to start talking about them now. So the first podcast, and I've been listening to this literally since episode 1, which is, I can't even remember how long, but like a long time now, is the Receipts podcast. So I literally feel like I've grown up with these wonderful ladies. So the hosts are Tolly, Milena and Audrey. They're amazing, absolutely wonderful. So basically there's episodes every single Wednesday, and so it's like it changes up. I don't know how to best explain this, but it's like one Wednesday is like a full episode, and then the following Wednesday, so like every second Wednesday, they do a mini-sode. So the mini-sodes are like a little bit shorter, and they are like, they focus on listeners' dilemmas. Girls basically give their advice. So those are great episodes, but personally I prefer like the episodes where they just kind of discuss topics, usually things that are relevant to like what's gone on in the last week or what's going on social media or whatever. But yeah, it's just like really easy listening. It's so funny, like the girls are hilarious. And it's lovely because they're all very, very different, so they all bring something quite different to the table. So yeah, I fucking love the Receipts. They also brought out a book recently, you should buy it. Okay, next. So I didn't listen to this for the longest time because I just didn't think it was going to interest me. So my newer obsession is Call Her Daddy. Call Her Daddy with Alex Cooper. Alex Cooper is my best friend. Alex Cooper is my soulmate. Alex Cooper, I would marry Alex Cooper, okay? She's amazing. Like, girly, chatty, like again, like they all are, all of the podcasts I'm mentioning. It's just so nice, like you feel like you're talking with your best friend. And so Call Her Daddy is like a really sexually like liberal podcast. Great like big sister advice, great funny stories. It's just got everything, and I just could not recommend it highly enough. And what I will say is that Alex used to have a co-host called Sophia, and they did it together. Long story short, it didn't work out. If you're interested in why, find out for yourself. Didn't work out. They both wanted different things. So now Alex does it herself. And I only just started listening recently, so I didn't listen when it was Alex and Sophia, but I've tried listening back to old episodes where it was Alex and Sophia, and it just wasn't for me. I don't know, I'm not saying that it's like either one of them. I think it's just because they were younger, like it was in the past, but it's all quite immature and a bit toxic, which I don't really find enjoyable listening to. Whereas when I listen now, like you can tell Alex has grown up a lot, she's learned a lot, and it's just more of an enjoyable vibe for me. Okay, thirdly, again, I'm just obsessed. Like, I am so in love with Miss Emma Chamberlain and her podcast, Anything Goes. Anything Goes is great. I feel like I am extremely similar to Emma in terms of like personality and just a vibe and being and everything. So it's kind of nice because I almost feel like I'm having my own thoughts when I'm listening to her thoughts. So yeah, she discusses like some really big topics with like a really great balance of maturity, but then she is still young, so it's still got like, there's still always room for like learning and change of opinion, and I don't know if I'm making sense. But yeah, Anything Goes is podcast number 3. Okay, next one. 6 and 9 podcast. So you might have seen or you might follow Lexi Wood on Instagram. Absolute earth angel, so beautiful, like the sweetest human being. And her mum and her older sister Tiffany. So her mum is Shannon and her older Tiffany is sister. Her older sister is Tiffany and her mum is Shannon. No, they're absolutely wonderful. And again, Lex and Tiff they're obviously sisters and they have similarities, but like they're different. So they bring like a different perspective. And then Shannon, being that, you know, she's older, she has 2 kids, so she has so much life experience. She brings something entirely unique to the situation. Okay, next is, so it used to be called Free the Girls and it's still called Free the Girls in my head. So I might slip up, but it's now called Girls After Dark. So, Girls After Dark, because by the way, they nearly got sued for using Free the Girls. They made a whole episode on it, you can go listen. But it's now called Girls After Dark. So Girls After Dark is hosted by Claudia Walsh and Devora Roloff. They're best friends. You might know of Kennedy Walsh, who's Claudia's sister, or of Brandon Walsh, who is Claudia's brother and Devora's boyfriend. But if you don't know about Claudia and Devora, then get to know. And this is another podcast that's just like, again, like, what am I doing with my arms? Origami. This is another one that's just really chatty, girly, best friend vibes. So really recommend. Also another like very sexually liberal podcast. All of them have that in common. Clearly that's a running theme. Clearly I love to listen to sex positive podcasts, and you should too. So yeah, Girls After Dark. Next podcast, I actually can't think what I've mentioned and what I've not, so let me just get up my library. Okay, the next podcast is Pressed. So, hosted by Adiola Patron and Mariam Musa, so AP and Maz, who are just so great. They're both YouTubers, they're best friends, and basically Nella Rose also used to host this podcast, but Nella has a lot of her own stuff going on, so I suppose she just kind of parted ways, so it's now just Maz and Adiola for season 2 and onwards. But yeah, great girlies. Again, it's just very chatty. They just usually discuss their week, discuss what's going on, and then they take some viewer dilemmas. Next is Common Chaos. So, Common Chaos is hosted by Cartia Milan and Ashton Wood, besties. They're Australian and they're so cute. They are the sweetest girls. They're really into like their manifestation and stuff. If you're into that kind of thing, then you probably really enjoy it. Yeah, they like to do like a little mantra of the week and things like that. Okay, next one is you can't listen to an episode of Happy Hour with Lucy and Nikki without peeing yourself laughing. These bitches are so funny. So they're Australian, and I feel like Australian humour is just like, is most similar to Scottish humour. They're absolutely mental. The stories that they have are absurd. Like, you would not believe half of the shit that they have experienced. So yeah, you absolutely have to listen. So funny. So the hosts are Lucy and Nikki, and they are best friends. They've been best friends for years, and they just have like a really nice dynamic. Lucy is like a loose cannon. Like, that girl is, she's crazy. And then Nikki is also like a really good time, but like on a completely different end of the scale. Like, Nikki's really like chill, and Lucy is just, she's crazy, okay? So yeah, that's nice again to have like that little dynamic between the two. So everything that I just mentioned, those are my absolute favorites. So The Receipts, Call Her Daddy, Anything Goes, 6 and 9, Common Chaos, Pressed, and Happy Hour. I don't think I missed anything. I think that's all of my favorites, which are like, I always listen. The next few that I'm going to talk about are podcasts that I like and that I enjoy and that I listen to. They're not necessarily my favorite. First that I'm going to talk about is Ladies First. So Ladies First is hosted by Laura Brown, and basically she has different celebrities on, like female celebrities, women celebrities, and they just talk, really. Like, for example, she's had Jennifer Aniston, she's had Ellen Pompeo, she's had Cindy Crawford, she's had Zendaya, so there's like a real mix of people in there. Okay, so the next one is similar to Ladies First, in the sense that Ellen, so it's Ellen Pompeo's podcast, Tell Me, and Ellen just has like different celebrities on for chat. I am obsessed with Ellen Pompeo. Basically Meredith Grey is like my safe person. Like Grey's Anatomy, I've watched it 3 times. It just makes me feel safe. So Ellen's voice to me is just like, it's music to my ears. It's so comforting. She's had Patrick Dempsey on, which if you're a Grey's fan, it's just so nice to hear them both. I don't know. She's had Cindy Crawford, she's had Eric Dane, another one for the Grey's fans. Okay. Now the last 2 are no longer girlies as hosts. So firstly, Tap In with Harry Jowsey. So Harry Jowsey, if you don't know, was on season 1 of Too Hot to Handle. Usually shows like that are so not up my street. Like, I can't stand things like Love Island. It just doesn't interest me. But we were like peak lockdown when Too Hot to Handle came out, and I had watched just about everything I could think to watch. So I was like, okay, I'll go for it. And I actually ended up really enjoying the first season of Too Hot to Handle, because I really liked Chloe and Nicole. Harry is actually very likable. I think he's one of those people who a lot of people probably have a negative opinion of. He's been portrayed in a certain way on TV, he's been portrayed in a certain way by his ex-girlfriend who was also on the show. But if you listen, and I've also listened to Harry as a guest on a lot of other podcasts, he is just a really sweet, really genuine boy, and he's here for a good time, you know? Like, he does not have bad intentions, he wouldn't harm a fly, he's just really sweet. So I like listening to Harry. I get a good laugh. Again, he's Australian, so the humour is just top notch. But yeah, Tap In with Harry Jowsey. And finally, this one's on a completely different vibe from everything else. It's The Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett. It is, I suppose you would call it, a self-help and self-improvement podcast to an extent. So again, he has lots of different guests on, and the guests vary quite wildly. So he's had politicians, he's had celebrities, he's had influencers. The people who he interviews are like really impressive people who, you know, like you can learn a lot from. But those are my podcast recommendations. So yeah, obviously those last few were just like extras, which I would recommend, I do enjoy. But the top ones that you have to listen to, I'll say them one more time. And I'm gonna list everything in the description box. So I'll list like the musts, and then I'll list like, yeah, I listen to them sometimes. But the musts: The Receipts podcast, Call Her Daddy, 6 and 9, Anything Goes, Pressed, Happy Hour, and Common Chaos. Again, and just podcast recommendations for the girlies, girly chat vibes. Yeah, you will love these, I think, if you're anything like me, if you're anything like any of the hosts. I don't know, it's just, I love a podcast. And if you have any for me, then let me know in the comments, because I love a podcast recommendation. I'm always like scrolling through and trying to find like new ones, but a lot of the time they just like don't stick, they don't spark my interest. So these are tried and tested by me, listen every week, love them. But yeah, if you have any podcast recommendations for me or for anyone else who might happen to be watching, then leave them in the comments. And yeah, if you have any questions or anything, again, feel free to let me know. Happy listening! Okay, bye! That was such a dramatic ending. Also, look! My curls are so cute today.